So if I had to ask you, do you trust your supervisor? Yeah, no, I use the word trust. Do you really trust them? Let me go even further. Do you think your employees trust you? And if you're not actually asking yourself that same question, you really need to be listening to this show. And I'm so glad you're here. My name is Pandy. You're listening to The Human Resource. And today I have Tracy LaLonde on, the author of Trust Me. And I'm telling you, after reading this, yes, look at all those little tabs, guys. I actually read these books. I would never ask you to read something I haven't already read. But what's really cool is I actually started underlining, and look, I mean, there are things in here that I'm going to be a better person for. So please, Tracy, I cannot tell you how wonderful it is to have you on the show, but this is a genuine question. I mean, people need to actually wonder whether they have the trust that they should in the workplace.
Yeah, agreed. And that's why I wrote the book.
But you're an attorney.
No, I'm a training professional.
A training professional. Okay.
Who happens to have worked a lot with law firms.
Okay. So how did we get into this?
It's interesting because I've been in training and doing training for over 30 years and on a whole host of topics. And I had an epiphany one day. I'm like, we talk a lot about how important trust is in every dynamic, but yet we're not really talking about how. There's no resources that tell people how to build trust. And I felt compelled that I needed to focus on that.
Well, then start at the very beginning. What are the elements of trust?
Well, there's 6 elements of trust. There is, and you may have to prompt me if I forget one, but there's competence, so someone's ability to do something. There's integrity, so it's doing what they say they're going to do. There's communication, so are they upfront, transparent, timely in communication? Remind me the other ones now.
No, listen, empowerment. And that's one that is continually missing. And then your very last one, which I am constantly talking to my clients about, is consistency.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's doing all of those things again and again and again so that people feel that you're reliable.
And available.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Yeah. Your book, it starts with that foundation of what trust is, and then it goes all the way through what happens when trust erodes, what happens when we have to start over. And one of your chapters actually talks about assessing the impact of mistakes. Can you help the viewers understand that?
Yeah. And so, my biggest interest is I'm trying to help someone not automatically completely write off someone else when there's a bump in the road, whether that's a mistake or something's gone awry or what have you. And so part of that is assessing the impact of the mistake. And there's 2 dimensions for that. There's the severity of the mistake. So is there a big consequence? Is there a big cost associated with fixing it? Is it highly visible? Does it damage someone else's reputation? And then there's also the conduct. So it's how someone handles that mistake. Is it because they're learning something new and it was an acceptable kind of mistake? Or is it because it's something they know and they really shouldn't be making this mistake? How do they communicate? So are they upfront, or do they try to hide it? Or do they try to fix it before they tell you? And do they have empathy for you in that mistake? And so first we've got to assess, is this kind of a blip or is it a major blunder? And then the other aspect that's different as I'm approaching it is most people think that if I were to make a mistake in working with you, that the recovery is completely incumbent upon me to fix it. And while, yes, I have culpability and responsibility, I'm trying to encourage folks that you also have a responsibility, meaning don't write me off completely. And second, identify what it is about my performance or my behavior or my actions that you can't trust. So maybe I've missed a deadline, but I deliver great quality work. so helping you to discern that difference. And then second part is to tell me, to tell me, hey, it's about your time management. I don't trust that anymore. I do trust the work you provide, but it's about time management. So how can we work on that together and then give me an opportunity to re-earn that trust?
Well, and what I love about this, Tracy, is it works both up and down, as your book definitely mentions. As directors, as business owners, our employees can lose. I mean, they don't trust us because we make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And then we don't trust them because they make mistakes. And without talking it through, it just runs into complete disaster.
Yeah. And I think that's become even easier for those businesses that either work now in a remote situation or a hybrid situation, because we're not seeing each other every day. And so it leads to all sorts of assumption making that perpetuates or exacerbates the problem.
And, what's really sad is they, in most cases, will never meet those employees. So business owners now in this workplace that we have now, this work environment, have to learn new ways of communication. And you've got a wonderful list in your book of what they should be doing with those remote workers to develop a relationship with them where trust can grow.
Right, exactly. And the overarching theme of all of this is intentionality in working remote. So we need to be much more intentional around creating moments where we can talk, where we can connect. We need to make sure that our messages are very clear. We need to seek understanding before we make those assumptions, when interacting with folks. To the extent that we're doing Zoom meetings or online meetings, we need to participate, meaning having the camera on.
I love that one.
3D, rather than 2D. We need to be responsive. So responsiveness increases in importance greatly, because if we don't see each other and I send you a message, if I don't get a response from you in whatever time frame I'm expecting, well, number one, I need to communicate that. Goes to intentionality. When do I need a response? But if you aren't responsive in a good time frame, my mind wanders of all the other things that you're doing that aren't associated to the work that I want you to be doing. So intentionality from both perspectives is kind of the key thing to keep in mind as we talk about remote work.
Well, and I've always said that perception runs and drives our reality. And if we perceive that individual is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, or we perceive without verifying. Mm-hmm. One of the other things that you put in the book, which I think is just delightful, is the importance of actions versus words. We tend to trust people when we see them do what they say they're going to do. And I really wonder if we're really doing a self-check, a self-actualization of, are we really doing what we say we're going to do?
And that all goes to the integrity element of trust. And especially when we can't see each other, all the time, that integrity component becomes so much more critical.
But I like the way you're emphasizing the presence of humility, because a lot of business owners or a lot of leaders, that's tough for them to back up and go, you know what, we probably shouldn't have done that. Or in retrospect, yeah, maybe I would do something different. But if they can do that, they seem so much more real and so much more human.
Yeah, exactly. People forget that trust is a two-person game. It's not a one-person game.
Well, go back, and my viewers are probably giggling to themselves saying, yeah, but Pandy always says that trust is earned and you just can't be given that. And I admit, I say that all the time, but your book has a different twist to it.
Yeah. So I encourage people to begin with trust by giving trust, because trust is actually a physiological phenomenon. So if I choose to extend trust to you, sharing personal information, letting you take the lead on something, admitting I've made a mistake, what that does for you is it releases oxytocin in your brain, which is the bonding hormone. And so that makes you feel good about being trusted. And so that incents you to trust me in return, which then releases oxytocin in my brain, which then incents me to trust you. So we get this nice reciprocal oxytocin train going. And so when folks feel like they have to make someone earn their trust, we don't give an opportunity for that oxytocin reciprocity situation to happen. Now, let me clarify. You probably don't mean it in a black and white way. We talk about it in black and white, but you probably extend trust in small ways. And so I'm not going to give someone my bank account numbers when I first met them, but I will trust them in a way that's less risky. And then as we, develop and deepen the relationship, may come to trust them with more and more risky types of things. So it's not quite black and white. It's a little more gray.
Well, you still have me rethinking my approach, and that's good. That's good because I'm still growing. I am still growing. I have, trust me, you can be one of my mentors. One of the other interesting parts of your book were the 7 effective actions for managing down, and I think that is such a fundamental thought and just basic. It's just things that should be common sense, but they're not. So I just kind of want to mention those through too, because I want to make sure your book is really set. Viewers, listeners, please understand, her book is so easy to go through because she gives you examples and she challenges you to think, how would you react to, or what would you do if, and I just love that kind of training and teaching. So, Tracy, go through the 7 effective actions for managing down, because I think they need to take notes on that.
Yeah. So the first one is consistent and open communication. And by the way, let me preface all of these by saying they sound obvious, and as you and I are talking about them right now. So of course, people are going to be trying to be consistent and open communication. But what happens is we get busy and we get distracted. So it's communicating in a way that manages expectations, that is clear about what we're asking for, what we need, or how we want to handle a situation, etc. Second is demonstrating integrity and reliability. It goes back to one of the elements, so doing what you say you're going to do on a consistent basis. Involving team members in decision making. And this is a tricky one for many.
That's hard.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's what I invite people to think about it. I'm not fully giving over all the decision making to you. I'm saying involve them. So involve them can simply be, I ask their opinion. Hey, what do you think? On a regular basis. And then following up, once that decision has been made, either why I decided the way that I went, if it went along with what they said, or why I went another way. Because it's an opportunity to teach judgment, and it also shows them that their input was valued, but given the context and given other things that they may not be privy to, this is why I've chosen to go another way. Okay. So I think people feel like they're relinquishing all control, and that's not what I mean. Acknowledging and valuing every team member's contribution. So it could just be a simple thank you, but it's also just saying, hey, you know what, when you came up with that idea, that really made me think another way about it. I really appreciated that. So it's an appreciation expression. Making it safe to make mistakes. So that has a lot to do with building in time for mistakes, accepting that mistakes are a part of the learning process. Recognizing that people don't really get good at something until the second, third, or fourth time that they do a task. Investing in development. The younger generations in particular want to grow, and they want someone to care. So it's not just about saying, sure, you can go to that training. It's about, hey, when is the training? How can I support you in the training? Not interrupting them in that training program, and meeting with them afterwards to say, what have you learned and how are you going to apply this? And then finally is practicing empathy and understanding. And empathy as a manager was a big buzzword in the last few years. And I think folks don't really know what that means. And for me, it's continuously putting yourself in the shoes of the other person so that we can try to truly understand and ask them questions to truly understand what they're going through so that we can support them in where they want to go or where the team needs to go.
Well, one of the things I want to stress here is this is all such phenomenal information, but it can't happen overnight. And this absolutely is a part of all of our development. And if you are someone literally looking at yourself and going, I don't know. I just don't know that I can be that vulnerable with my team. I don't know that I can even let them think that they have any empowerment. You may not be leadership material. You may not be someone who should be managing people, and that's okay. That's totally okay. But think of the difference when you're working for someone that you can trust. And if you don't have employees that feel the same way, then you're doing a disservice for the company. So this is an honest, again, trust me. It's a good book. Come on. If I can get through it in a day, you can get through it in a day. And ask yourself, am I the person that is best for the people that I'm managing? Am I the best person for someone else to manage? And am I the best person for the company? Because maybe you're working for the wrong employer if you don't trust them. Tracy, help us out. Where can they reach you, and where can they learn more about you?
Yeah. So my website is a great resource. It's joycheever.com, JoyChiever.com.
And I got the book off of Amazon. So
yep, you can book off of Amazon. You can purchase in bulk off of my website. So because, Pandy, something else to consider, most people think about trust as a characteristic. I'm approaching trust as a teachable skill. And a lot of people don't think about it. It is a muscle that we can develop. So, in my dream world, businesses are buying this book for everybody in the company. as simply as a way to start the conversation, but also to start to work on that muscle.
Well, and I even think that this isn't a bad book for somebody who's, in college or who's in high school that's starting their first job. There are a lot of tools in here that you can start those fundamentals with. Tracy, thank you for being here. Thank you so much. And again, guys, I'll have her back if she writes her next book. So thank you so much for listening. And send us your suggestions, because this is how we get our material. What do you want to hear? What do you want to know? And we'll bring it to you here at The Human Resource.